Hello, my name is Mathias and welcome to the FPL Scope. Today we're going to take a look at my team selection for gameweek 2. But before we do that, we have to look at what happened in gameweek 1 for my team, and I'm pretty pleased actually with my team. So let's go through it from goalkeeper until the final benched player, and let me just talk about why I picked every single player. So in goal we have Onana, who got 9 points, which is really lucky because Man United really should have conceded, and Onana really should have conceded a penalty towards the end of the match. Now, Onana could have saved the penalty and gotten 5 more points and bonus and all that stuff, but even then, that would have been super lucky as well because Man United really should have conceded goals. And that's not really what I expected from Onana, because the reason that I bought him is that Man United had the most clean sheets last season, and I expect that to stay roughly the same or potentially even more this season. But yeah, it's early season, so I think Man United will improve, so I don't really stress too much about Onana in goal. Maybe there are some decent 4.5 alternatives in goal now that I might prefer if I could start over again, but currently I'm pretty happy with Onana still, even though Man United looks shaky. I'm going to give him some time at least, and he's 5.0, and you don't really want to change goalkeepers too much, so pretty happy with Onana, especially with the 9 points, so I'm still pretty happy with him. Yeah, 9 points is nice. Ben Chilwell, super happy with him. He is the man of the hour, it seems like. He is like the most wanted player in FPL currently, and I'm really happy that I have him as well. It's pretty late addition. If you've followed my videos in preseason, didn't really have Chilwell that early on in the season, or early on in the FPL season at least, but as we got closer and closer to the Game Week 1 deadline, it just became more and more apparent that he was going to be super attacking for Chelsea, and Chelsea were actually going to be a bit better than what we expect, and yeah, he was sort of like a no-brainer move towards the end of the preseason. So really happy that I have him. He got 7 points. It's also awesome. He had a goal disallowed, which was kind of annoying, but he was slightly offside, so VAR actually stepped in and fixed something for once. So moving on to Saliba, he is the latest addition to my team because this spot was going to be Gabriel Magalhaes the whole way through. Gabriel was in my every single draft that I had in preseason, and then 3 minutes or so before the deadline, we get the news that Gabriel might not start for Arsenal. It's most likely going to be Saliba and someone else. And we all switched from Gabriel to Saliba because that was the most sensible move. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that still. So Saliba got a pretty cheap assist that he probably wouldn't have had in most games, but he just passed it to Saka, and Saka did the rest really. And then he conceded a goal, and which, again, like with Chilwell, I'm happy with the points, but it could have been more. But yeah, can't get too greedy with Saliba, and he got 5 points, and Gabriel was benched in the end, so he only got 1 point. So 4-point swing there, just because I followed the team news and got lucky with no crashes with FPL site or anything like that. So I feel kind of bad about having Saliba when a lot of other people don't have him. They had Gabriel, especially after I said that Gabriel was like the best pick, but there was absolutely no reason to believe that Gabriel was going to be benched at any point this season because he played every single game last season, the most minutes for Arsenal. Even in preseason this year, he played the most minutes. He played in the Community Shield. Absolutely no reason to expect him to be dropped, but then we get the news right before deadline, and it changes so much for a lot of different FPL managers. So really lucky that I got Saliba in general, but could have had even more points if I got the clean sheet. Estepinian as well could have had a lot more points, but he also could have had less points because he had 1 point towards the end of the match, but then he got an assist, and since he had created so many chances beforehand, that shot him straight up to 3 bonus points, and that netted him 7 points in total. I was actually kind of happy about the 1 point somehow because it felt like people were going to be thrown off the scent of Estepinian and potentially sell him in Game 3 or 4. I said all through preseason that he is someone that I'm going to keep for the foreseeable future. People say that, oh, Brighton have difficult fixtures, but the truth is that the difficult fixtures have Brighton. So Brighton are a really good team, and Estepinian is one of the best value players in the game for 5.0 in defense. So really happy with him as well. In midfield, I have Mohamed Salah. He got an assist and got a goal chalked off for offside, just like Chilwell. He also had a shot hit the bar after Gakpo did like a pretty poor pass to him, like kind of behind him, and he had to recuperate the ball and then shoot it with his right. He still hit the bar. It was really close, but I liked what I saw from Salah, even though he got injured. He got subbed off early in the game, and he was not happy about it at all. But I have no issues with Salah going forward in terms of playing time. He's going to play 100% or 99% at least. You never know, but Klopp has said that it's no big deal that he was mad. He wants his players to be mad that they are subbed off, and I think Salah actually gain from it. I think he'll be more selfish. And as long as Liverpool are doing well, if they beat Bournemouth 9-0 again like they did last season, Salah is not going to leave that pitch without a couple of goal contributions. So Salah, as we'll get to for Game 2, I have really high hopes for him. Marcus Rashford, I had really high hopes for him before this season, and he did not live up to it in the first match, but at the same time, I got to give him some more time. He is kind of on the chopping block, I guess, for Game 3, but for Game 2, at least I'm going to keep him. I think he can strike back quickly against Spurs away. It's a tough fixture on paper, but Spurs could concede a lot of goals. It's going to be a really open game. I think it's going to be plenty of goals both sides, really. And I think Rashford, if he plays on his favorite left-sided position, where Garnacho played last time and absolutely sucked, if Rashford gets to play at that position and you have another player at striker, whether that's Martial or that's Sancho or someone, I think Rashford could get some points against Spurs. So 3 points, not the best for Game 1, but I think he is still good value for 9.0, and I still have some faith in him. And he's going to have to... He has a little bit of a ticking timer on him for him to perform, because he is 9.0, and it feels like Salah is someone that I might want to keep beyond Game 2 as well. So we'll see about that when we come to the Game 2 plans. Bukayo Saka, though, is someone that I'm not looking to sell probably at any point this season. It feels like he is one of those undervalued players that is going to be someone that you just keep through difficult fixtures, through any bad spurts of form. He's going to get some runs where he gets 2 or 3 blanks in a row, but I'm not going to lose faith in Saka, because he's on penalties. Firstly, he's also pretty nailed for Arsenal, and I think he is a great pick. He's got 10 points in Game 1, really good. He scored 1 goal, and Haaland scored 2, but he was still only 3 points behind Haaland, which tells you what you need to know about midfielders compared to forwards when it comes to getting points. So Saka, still pretty nailed in my team. Not really thinking about removing him at probably any point this season, unless he gets an injury or something like that. Eberechi Eze, he was also sort of a late addition to my team, and this was kind of between Eze and Diaby, and I'm kind of annoyed that I went with Eze over Diaby, but at the same time, pretty unlucky with Eze that he didn't get any points, because he was one of the most high-performing players in the whole game in Game 1, and he played in a match that not many people watched, so unlike someone like Maddison, who got 2 assists as well, he's not going to get that much hype, but his underlying numbers against Sheffield United in Game 1 were fantastic. I think he had 5 or 4 shots in the box. He created a lot of chances. He was pivotal to everything that Crystal Palace did offensively. So he had 2 really good set pieces as well that should have been goals. So really unlucky to get only 3 points, but I'm pretty happy with Eze going forward, even though I wish I had Diaby now, because obviously Diaby got more points in Game 1 and he has better fixtures from Game 2 onwards. So but Eze still, I have pretty high confidence in him. I think he's going to be the best 6.5, potentially the best 6.5 midfielder throughout the season. But that is going to be a really contested spot, because there are a lot of good 6.5 midfielders. So I'm happy that I have 2 at least, because I have Brian Mbeumo as well, who got 7 points. He scored a penalty. He missed another major chance that he should have scored. But Mbeumo, he's like that. He misses some big chances sometimes, but he's going to play every game. He's going to take penalties. He's going to take free kicks. He's going to be the main man for Brentford, and he also played as a striker next to Jan Vissa in the opening match. Played as the most attacking player in the whole team, and I think he's a great pick as well. I am not regretting Mbeumo at all either. I had him throughout the whole preseason as my 6.5 midfielder, and he was pretty much nailed in my team, and he showed in Game 1 why I had so much faith in him, especially with Tony out for the first half of the season. And Mbeumo's going to step up for Brentford, who are more like a system team that don't necessarily need Tony to perform, even though Tony is obviously a really good player that they're going to get back in January and be really happy about. So I'm really happy about having Mbeumo in my team and his 7 points. Up front, Haaland, no-brainer, captain, 13 points, 26 points in total as the captain. Can't really ask for much more for Haaland in the opening game, away from home as well. Doesn't score hat-tricks away from home, but he gets a brace and 13 points. Got to be happy with that. And then finally, Joao Pedro with 7 points. He also scored a penalty and he also missed a big chance. Kind of similar to Mbeumo, but he's going to have a similar role that Mbeumo has. And he might not be as nailed. He doesn't have as many set pieces, but he's also 1 million cheaper. So I think Mbeumo is fantastic value for 5.5. He's also someone that I'm looking potentially to sell if I get the money to upgrade to someone like Nick Jackson, for example. But we'll get to the future plans pretty soon. On the bench, I have Matt Turner in goal. He got 2 points, but he was on the bench, so it doesn't really matter. conceded twice against Arsenal, 2 really good goals from Arsenal to be fair, so nothing he could have done with either of the goals. And Nottingham Forest actually looked better defensively than we expected, so for Game Week 2, it's going to be an interesting decision between him and Onana, which I'm going to talk about pretty soon. But moving on to the first player on the bench, and that is, like, apart from the goalkeeper, the first outfield player on the bench is Destiny Udogie, who I'm also really happy with. He looked pretty attacking for Spurs. Spurs looked really good, so I think he is going to be the great value that I expected before the season, and he looks completely nailed. He was the one that started. Pedro Porro was the one getting benched because, like I said in preseason as well, Ange Postecoglou likes to have one of his fullbacks like kind of attacking at least, and yeah, Udogie will get license to go forward and fill in the gaps between the fullback and the centre back on the opposing team, and be a threat in the box for Spurs going offensively. And yeah, Emerson played on the right, and he was actually pretty offensive as well. So yeah, I think Udogie and Emerson are going to be the main starting fullbacks for Spurs, and Pedro Porro will get some minutes as well, but he doesn't fit the profile of Ange Postecoglou like Udogie does. So Udogie is going to start at left back. Udogie doesn't really have any competition. It's Reguilon, who's been linked away from Spurs this summer, and it's also Ben Davies, who will be needed in central defense at some points, especially if Romero is now injured. But yeah, I really like Udogie as like a bench option for 4.5. That's great value for me. Then I also went with Issa Kabore as my 4.0 defender, and yeah, I have one regret about this, and that's not going with Malo Gusto. That was like part of my preseason thinking that maybe I should just go with Gusto because at some point Reece James is going to get injured, and as we sort of could expect, sadly, with Reece James, he is now getting, there are now news that he is injured and out for a while. So Malo Gusto for 4.0 seems like the best 4.0 defender currently, but it's hard to predict that before the season. So Issa Kabore, however, looked pretty good. Luton looked not that good against Brighton away, but that's a really tough fixture. Kabore did look really offensively minded though, and I think he's going to get some points eventually, but for the start of the season, he's just someone to bench. And same goes for Cameron Archer, who's still with Aston Villa. He's not going to get any playing time for Aston Villa, but if he moves to either Sheffield United or someone else, he's been linked with a couple teams down, like towards the lower end of the table. If he moves to one of those teams for 4.5, he's going to be a good pick. But there as well, could have gone with someone like Balogun, who is probably going to leave Arsenal for a different Premier League team. Could have gone with Osula, who looked really good for Sheffield United. But if Archer moves to Sheffield United, then Osula sort of loses his place there, and Archer becomes the starting striker next to Beni Traore. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with Archer as well, and he's also someone that I'm looking to sell potentially, especially if I sell Salah in Game Week 2. But in general, I ended up with 89 points in Game Week 1. Really happy with that. That's an overall rank of 76,000, which the overall rank doesn't really matter that much at the start of the season, but it's always just nice to compare to everyone else. I'm 8 points behind the top 10k, which is my number one goal. That's like my primary objective, to get at least into the top 10k, which is, well, at least. It's a really tough task, especially now that there are so many managers in FPL, but that's always been my goal. I've done it 2 times, I think, 9,000 and 1,000. Way back in the day, I finished 1,248 or something. Not that I'm remembering it, but yeah. So I have some decent historical scores. Last year, though, I had my worst season of all time, and I'm really looking to strike back, getting into the top 10k. But my number one goal is obviously becoming number one in FPL. That's everyone's goal. Currently, I'm 38 points behind world number one, but that's also someone that used triple captain, I think, or bench boost in Game Week 1, and I didn't use a single chip, so I have an advantage there. I think the top point scorer in the first game week without any chips got 120, I can't remember, but at least I'm 29 points behind the world number one, who has not used the chip yet. So yeah, it's still early season though, so it doesn't really matter, but it's just fun to keep track of. I'm going to keep track of it all season because, spoilers, I'm going to win FPL this season. So just stay on, watch, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see me become number one at some point. I promise. That's kind of a tough promise, but hopefully it's going to happen. But yeah, that's my Game Week 1 squad. I had some let me just talk about some late changes right before the deadline. Obviously, the latest change was what I talked about earlier, Gabriel to Saliba. That's the last thing I did, basically. Yeah, with the news that Gabriel wasn't going to start, and I'm pretty happy I did. Pretty happy that I chose Saliba as well. I'm pretty confident in Arsenal going forward. I know a lot of people are kind of down on them, but I think they looked pretty good against Nottingham Forest. They didn't really need to push on to score more goals. and they conceded like a really good goal from Nottingham Forest with Elanga and Avoni doing really well for the goal. So I'm not that worried about Saliba and Arsenal going forward. And I said previously earlier in the week that going from Saliba to Reece James was not something that I would do personally. Going from Gabriel to Chilwell, I understand, but especially Reece James with his injury proneness, I'm not the biggest fan of doing that, especially early transfer for Reece James. So I hope none of you watching did that, but if you did, I don't know. That's sort of what happens, I guess, when you take risks like that. So yeah. The other two changes that I did towards the end of before the deadline was changing Guardiola, who was actually one of the players that I was pretty sure I was going to have in my squad, but with the news that I wasn't going to start in Gameweek 1, I swapped him out for Kabore, and that made me get enough money to upgrade Divine Mubama to Joe Pedro. And looking at it now in hindsight, I'm really happy that happened actually, that Guardiola was benched, because Joe Pedro looks even better than I suspected, and I was pretty high on Joe Pedro before the season, so pretty happy that I have Pedro. But having a City defender who is nailed is going to be really, really good going forward. And especially if Stones is injured now, Guardiola might play even more matches. So Guardiola is something that I'm considering bringing him in as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. But let's move on to the Gameweek 2 plans and what I could potentially do for Gameweek 2. And currently, I'm probably just sticking with my team, but there are some decisions within my team though. I'm probably going to bank my transfer and have 2 transfers in Gameweek 3, or probably I'm 99% certain I'm going to do that, because there are some rumors, some slight rumors that Estepina might be injured. I think it's just random rumors. I think it's just someone who spread a false narrative or something on Twitter, and it caught fire, I guess, and some people are believing it now. But even if Estepinian is out with an injury for Gameweek 2 or something, if he doesn't play Gameweek 2, I have Destiny Udogie coming on off the bench, and I think Udogie could actually get some points against Man United, because Man United will concede some goals, I'm pretty sure. I think Spurs will concede as well, so I think Udogie will concede, but he might contribute with assists or goals. So there is actually a decision for me choosing between Udogie and Saliba, because Saliba plays against Crystal Palace. I obviously want Eze to score because I have Eze and not many people have Eze. So I might go with Udogie just to like try to optimize the team, but at the same time, Rashford plays against Udogie, so it's difficult to get points from both parties. You have to get points attackingly from your defender if that's the case. If you have an attacking player playing against a defender in your own team, you need the defender to get some points offensively as well for both of them to pan out. And I think Udogie has a better chance of scoring goals than Saliba does, even though Saliba got the assist in Gameweek 1, and Saliba has shown that he can score goals in the past as well. So yeah, that's a decision I have to do. And the other decision is between the goalkeepers. So I have Onana, who plays for Man United, which is obviously a much better team than Nottingham Forest, but at the same time, Man United play Spurs, where they are most likely to concede, and Nottingham Forest play against Sheffield United, who are the worst team in the league, and they are most likely going to keep a clean sheet. So that's why I'm leaning towards having Turner. I think a lot of people are going with Turner this game week, and I don't want to be left behind in that regard. I think he can easily get a clean sheet against Sheffield United, even though Sheffield United have made some nice signings lately. But other than that, the team stays the same, so I'll just run through it for anyone not watching. And it is Turner in goal against Sheffield United at home. We have Chilwell in defense against West Ham away. Saliba in defense against Crystal Palace away. Estepinian against Wolverhampton away, assuming he's fit to play, and I'm pretty certain he is fit to play. Salah at home to Bournemouth, and we'll get to the captaincy thing pretty soon. Rashford against Spurs away. Saka against Crystal Palace away. Eze against Arsenal at home. And Mbeumo against Fulham away. Haaland against Newcastle at home. And Joao Pedro against Wolves at home. Or Wolves away, sorry. So I'm pretty happy with the squad. It's Udogie, and then the other bench option I have is Archer, who's not going to play against Everton for Aston Villa unless he gets a move to somewhere before the game. I think the deadline for that is also passed. So yeah, I basically only have one guy on the bench, and that's Destiny Udogie. So if Estepinian and someone else are out, then I'm going to struggle a bit. But that's the only way I can see myself doing any transfers, really. If we get news that Estepinian is out and we get news that someone else is out, either whether it's Rashford or Mbeumo or Eze or some random benching, then maybe then I would probably do my one free transfer, and that would probably be Kabore to Gusto, because it seems like Gusto is going to play now with Reece James injured. So that's something I could do. I could go like sort of offensively and try to get 2 Chelsea defenders. Wouldn't really cost me much for Kabore, but at the same time, Kind of want to wait for Game Week 3 so I can potentially downgrade Saliba to Kabore, or not to Kabore, Saliba to Gusto, so I have more money in the bank and potentially get someone in attack for Joao Pedro in Game Week 4 potentially. Or maybe I downgrade Rashford or potentially Salah and get some more money that way. A lot of different things I can do for Game Week 3, but that's obviously something I'm going to talk more about for the Game Week, for the next week's team selection video. But the last thing I want to talk about here in this video is the captaincy, and obviously I'm going with Salah as captain. I know a lot of other people, or a lot of other content creators have sort of clickbaity titles where they have like, oh, Salah in, Salah captain, and they don't have Salah in their team, and they have no plans of getting Salah in their team. But for me, the plan was always to have Salah from the start of the season and have him as a captain in Game Week 2, and that decision is looking better and better by the day, really, because Man City are not looking at their best currently. They did beat Burnley 3-0, and Haaland scored twice, so Haaland still looks good. But at the same time, they didn't really create that many chances against Burnley either. Especially Haaland. He took his chances really well, and that happens sometimes with Haaland because he is an amazing finisher. But against Newcastle, you can't really count, you can't really expect the same sort of chance creation as well. So I think Salah is pretty much the obvious captain pick. It seems like most people are in agreement that Salah is the better captain for Game Week 2. It's just most people thought that Salah was not as good in terms of having Salah rather than having a more strong team in general. But seeing as the people that have gone, that are going without Salah, have gone with Martinelli and Fernandes, or both two players that a lot of people are trying to sell now, I'm pretty happy with the decision of going with Salah, even though we only got 5 points in the first game week. But yeah, Salah against Bournemouth at home, I think it could be a huge swing for me if he scores. And at the same time, it's not that big of a risk. If Haaland scores 2 goals, I do have Haaland in my team, so I'll get half of his points at least. Meanwhile, Salah, if he gets like 2 goals or a hat-trick, then most people don't have Salah at all, and I'll get double the points compared to everyone else. So really happy with Salah, really happy with how that has panned out. And it's also making me think, if Salah does really well against Bournemouth, do I stick with my plan of selling him in Game Week 3, or do I keep him and try to reconfigure my team in other ways to get in the players that I want, like Nick Jackson up front, for example, or potentially Alvarez up front? That's something I have to think about. So yeah, that's some early Game Week 3 plans. Potentially, I might do Saliba down to Gusto to get another Chelsea defender, and then potentially get upgrade Joao Pedro in Game Week 4 to Julian Alvarez. That's one of the things I could do. Or I could try to get 0.5 more by either selling Onana or someone else, and get enough to get Nick Jackson potentially. But those are just some early Game Week 3 plans. But in general, those are my plans for Game Week 2. You can look forward to more videos next week. I've done quite a few videos this week if you haven't checked them out. On Monday, I did the weekend walkthrough. Tuesday, I did the zombie team update. The zombie team that I created for this season is actually looking pretty good this season. Wednesday, I had a weekly wildcard draft where I sort of did like a wildcard for Game Week 2 if you're joining the game now in Game Week 2, or if you're on a wildcard because your Game Week 1 sucked, you get a really nice guide from that. Thursday's video was the FPL Scope podcast, where I talked with my co-host Kevin about some FPL like plans and stuff, his plans, the plans for the manager of the week potentially, and also some predictions for the results and stuff. So always a fun time with the podcast with Kevin as well. But yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything here in terms of my own team. There are some questions about what to do with your team if you have players like Stones, who is potentially injured. If you have James, for example, I think Malo Gusto is the prime candidate with James being injured. Gusto's only 4.0 and he's going to play every single game. And I think he's more defensively minded than Reece James, but he can still provide some attacking things as well, Gusto. But I think he is like the pretty much the no-brainer pick if you're looking for a defender. He's 4.0, the cheapest you can possibly get. I'm pretty certain he's going to play every game because he is a really good player after all. Like, he's no slouch at all. He showed that in preseason as well, that he is, especially defensively, he's fantastic. He has really good pace, and yeah, he has a lot of qualities, both offensively and defensively. So I think he is the best pick in defense if you're looking for a potential defender swap if you have Stones or Reece James, for example. So either way, that's been this video. That has been this week of content. Looking forward to see you again next week when I go through every single video like I did this week, pretty much, except for maybe the zombie team squad. But we'll look at that zombie team squad. Sorry about that. That's been this whole video. Finally, thank you, and have a nice Game Week 2. hopefully Salah gets a hat-trick and hold on blanks. And with that, see ya and goodbye.